Have you ever felt that your home needs more than just cleaning and decorating? Have you noticed that some houses radiate an inexplicable peace, while others seem to have a heavy atmosphere? Today, I'm going to reveal a sacred secret that Pope Francis shared about the transformative power of the crucifix in our homes. Let me tell you the story of Alejandro Ramirez, a man of Mexican descent who lived in a small apartment in Mexico City. His life took a complete turn when he discovered the true power of the crucifix. For years, Alejandro had one hanging on his living room wall, but he considered it simply another decoration. His home felt empty, and family arguments were frequent. Everything changed when, on a visit to his parish, he heard Pope Francis' teachings on the sacred power of the cross in our homes. The Pope has always emphasized that the crucifix is not a mere decorative object, but a direct channel of divine protection, a source of blessings that can completely transform the energy of a house. What I'm about to share with you is not just empty words. It is a sacred knowledge that has changed the lives of thousands of families. Pope Francis revealed that there is a right way to use the crucifix, specific places where it should be, and daily practices that can activate its full protective power. Perhaps you have a crucifix at home and are not receiving all its blessings. Or maybe you are thinking of getting one and want to do it the right way from the start. In any case, what you learn today will change your understanding of this sacred symbol and can transform the spiritual atmosphere of your home. Before continuing, I invite you to share in the comments, do you have a crucifix in your home? Have you ever noticed its influence in your home? Your experience can help others who are seeking this same divine protection. Pope Francis has always taught us that the presence of the crucifix in our homes is much more than a Catholic tradition. It is a real, tangible protection that acts as a spiritual shield for the whole family. But did you know there's a spiritual science behind this? Alejandro discovered this in the most surprising way. After hearing the Pope's teachings, he decided to do a simple experiment. He began to treat the crucifix in his living room with more respect and attention. He cleaned it, relocated it to a more visible place, and, most importantly, began to pray before it every morning. The changes began to be noticed in just a week. His wife, Carmen, who used to be always tense and worried, began to feel calmer. His grandchildren, when they visited, commented that the house felt different, more welcoming. Even the neighbors noticed a change in the atmosphere of the home. Why does this happen? Pope Francis explained that the crucifix acts as a beacon of divine light. When we place it in our homes with faith and respect, it becomes a point of direct connection with heaven. It's as if we open a window through which divine blessings enter. But there is something fundamental you must know. Not all crucifixes are activating this protection. Many families have one at home, but are not receiving all its benefits. Why? Because there are important details we need to know and practice. For example, did you know that the location of the crucifix can enhance or diminish its protective power? Or that there are specific times of day when its influence is stronger? This is knowledge that the Pope shared and that has been proven by thousands of families around the world. Alejandro's story is not unique. In Guadalajara, a family was going through serious economic problems until they learned how to correctly use the crucifix in their home. In Monterrey, a single mother saw the relationship with her children improve significantly after implementing these teachings. These are real testimonies of people who discovered this transformative power. If this message is resonating in your heart, if you feel that your home needs this divine protection, I invite you to subscribe to our channel right now. Press the subscription button and activate the little bell to receive notifications. You won't want to miss any of our videos, where we will continue to reveal these sacred truths that can transform your life and the life of your family. In Mexico, where our Catholic roots run so deep, The crucifix has always been a central element in our homes. From the humblest little houses in Chiapas to the grand residences of Polanco, the cross has been present as a symbol of faith. But what many do not know is that this symbol, when used correctly, has a power that goes far beyond the symbolic. Alejandro Ramirez's story begins in one of the humblest neighborhoods of Iztapalapa. The son of indigenous parents who migrated to the capital in search of better opportunities, Alejandro grew up with a simple but deep faith. However, life in the big city gradually eroded that spiritual connection. At 45, Alejandro faced a difficult reality. His marriage to Carmen was in crisis. His eldest son had fallen into bad company, and debts accumulated month after month. "Our house seemed to have a black cloud over it," he tells us with a choked voice. "No matter how much we cleaned, no matter how much we tried to fix things, there was a heaviness that we couldn't explain." On the wall of his modest living room hung a crucifix that he had inherited from his grandmother. It was an antique piece, carved in dark wood, that had accompanied the family for generations. But as often happens with family objects, it had become part of the landscape, something that was there, but that no one really saw. Everything changed one Sunday afternoon when Alejandro, seeking comfort, attended a mass at the Basilica of Guadalupe. The priest, inspired by the teachings of Pope John Paul II, spoke about the transformative power of sacred symbols in the home. "They are not amulets, they are channels of grace," the priest explained. "And the crucifix, when treated with reverence, becomes a source of blessings for the whole family." Those words resonated deeply in Alejandro's heart. That same night, upon returning home, he looked at the family crucifix with new eyes. He carefully took it down, cleaned years of accumulated dust, and decided to give it a place of honor at the entrance to his house. But he didn't stop there. Following the teachings he had heard, he began to bless his home every morning, praying before the crucifix before leaving for work. "At first, I felt a little strange," Alejandro confesses. "Carmen looked at me as if I had gone crazy, but something inside me told me that I should persevere." After 3 weeks, the changes began to manifest. The atmosphere in the home felt different, lighter. The arguments, which used to be daily, began to decrease. Carmen, intrigued by the change in her husband, began to join in the morning prayers. The most impactful moment came when their eldest son, who hadn't spoken to them for months, showed up at the door one night. He stood staring at the crucifix for a long time, Carmen recalls with tears in her eyes. Then he hugged us and asked us for help to get out of the problems he was in. The neighbors began to notice the changes in the Ramirez family. Mrs. Lupita, who lives in the apartment next door, commented in amazement, "It's as if the light has returned to that house. Even the plants on their balcony look greener and more flowery." The first fundamental aspect that Pope Francis revealed about the crucifix is what he called the awareness of the presence. It is not enough to have a crucifix hanging on the wall. We must be aware of its significance every time we look at it or pass in front of it. This awareness transforms a simple object into a point of spiritual connection. "When you look at the crucifix, let it look at you," the Pope taught. This seemingly simple phrase contains a profound spiritual truth. It is not just about seeing an object, but about allowing that object to become a channel of communication with the divine. Alejandro implemented this in a very practical way. Every time he entered or left his house, he made a brief pause in front of the crucifix. Sometimes it was just a moment, other times a brief prayer, but always with the awareness that he was not alone, that there was a protective presence in his home. "It's like greeting a friend who's always there for you," he explains. "At first it may seem strange, but over time it becomes as natural as breathing." This practice of constant recognition creates what the Pope called a field of protection around the home. It's as if each act of awareness strengthens an invisible shield that protects all who live under that roof. Carmen noticed something surprising. Before, when I came home tired from work, I felt even more exhausted upon entering the house. Now it's as if crossing the door and seeing the crucifix, part of that tiredness dissipates. The couple's youngest son, Miguel, 12, began to imitate his parents. Without anyone asking him, he began to make the sign of the cross every time he passed in front of the crucifix. His grades at school improved noticeably, and his teacher called the parents to ask what had changed at home. The Pope explained that children are especially sensitive to this spiritual energy. They perceive what we sometimes forget, he said. The presence of the sacred is more evident to pure hearts. An important detail that many are unaware of, the crucifix should be treated as a living presence, not as a decoration. This means keeping it clean, in a worthy place, and never using it as a coat rack or support for other objects. The respect we show toward it is directly reflected in the protection we receive. In Puebla, we met the Gutierrez family who had a business on the verge of bankruptcy. Following these teachings, they placed a crucifix at the entrance of their small shop and began to treat it with reverence. In less than 2 months, their clientele increased inexplicably, and today their business is one of the most prosperous in the neighborhood. If these revelations are touching your heart, and you feel they could transform your home as they did, with Alejandro and so many other families, I invite you to subscribe to our channel right now. Each week, we share these sacred truths that can change your life forever. Press the subscription button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our special videos. Brothers and sisters who follow us, we have reached a crucial point in our path of spiritual discovery. Before continuing to reveal the next secrets about the power of the crucifix, I want to pause for a moment to connect personally with each of you. I wonder, what are you feeling right now? Have the stories of Alejandro and other Mexican families touched a chord in your heart? Maybe you are thinking about that crucifix you have stored in a drawer or the one that hangs in your living room, but that you haven't looked at attentively for a long time. I want you to know that you are not alone on this path. Thousands of people throughout Mexico are discovering, along with you, these transformative truths. And the most beautiful thing is that we can learn from each other, share our experiences, and grow together in faith and hope. I invite you to pause at this moment. If you are at home, look at the crucifix you have. If you don't have one, think about the possibility of incorporating this sacred presence into your home. Reflect on what your relationship with this symbol has been like so far, and how it might change after what you're learning. Now, I would love to know your experience. Have you ever noticed that your home feels different when you pay attention to sacred symbols? Have you experienced moments of inexplicable peace or resolution of problems that seemed impossible? Or have you felt that something is missing in your space, that there is a protection you need but don't know exactly how to obtain it? Share your testimony in the comments of this video. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Sometimes God uses our words to reach the heart of another person who is going through similar situations. If the crucifix has had a special meaning in your life, tell us. If you are just discovering its power, we also want to know. Each comment is a testimony that strengthens our community. And if you know someone who could benefit from these teachings, perhaps a family member who is going through difficult times, a friend who feels that their home is full of heavy energies, or simply someone who seeks to strengthen their spiritual connection, share this video with them. Sometimes the greatest act of love is sharing light with those who walk in darkness. Remember that these teachings are not new. Pope John Paul II, like a good shepherd, simply reminded us of ancestral truths that our faith has always known, but that we sometimes forget in the hustle and bustle of modern life. In our Mexico, where religious traditions are so rich and deep, The crucifix has always been a constant presence, from the humble homes of Oaxaca to the colonial houses of San Miguel de Allende. The cross has been a witness to our joys and sorrows, our celebrations and our moments of difficulty. The second fundamental aspect that Pope Francis taught us about the power of the crucifix is related to its strategic placement in the home. It is no coincidence that in our grandparents' houses, the crucifix always occupied specific places. The Pope explained that there are energy points in each home that, when activated by the presence of the cross, create especially powerful fields of protection. The first key place is the main entrance of the house. It's like a spiritual guardian, the Pope explained. Everything that enters your home, whether visible or invisible, must first pass before the cross. Alejandro placed his family crucifix right at the entrance to his apartment and noticed something surprising. The people who visited us changed their attitude upon entering. It was as if they left their worries and negativity at the door. The second strategic point is the master bedroom. The Pope taught that the crucifix above the couple's bed not only protects their rest, but sanctifies their union each day. Carmen says that since they placed a small one above their headboard, the nightmares that had tormented her for years disappeared completely. "Now I sleep like a baby," she says with a serene smile. The third powerful place is where the family gathers to eat. The dinner table is more than just a piece of furniture. It's the heart of the home, where we share not only food, but also our lives. A crucifix near the dining area blesses every bite and every conversation that takes place there. A detail that few know is the importance of the height at which it is placed. Pope Francis taught that the crucifix should be at eye level or slightly above, never too high, where no one can see it, nor too low where it can be ignored or disrespected inadvertently. The Mendoza family of Querétaro discovered this in an extraordinary way. For years, they had had a beautiful crucifix, but placed it so high on the wall that practically no one noticed it. When they relocated it to the recommended height, their son, who had been looking for work for months without success, received 3 offers in the same week. It's as if the crucifix had been waiting to pour out blessings, but it needed to be recognized first, explains Mrs. Mendoza. This simple relocation changed the flow of spiritual energy throughout the house. Another fascinating point that the Pope revealed is that the crucifix should be visible from where we spend the most time. In the digital age, many spend hours in front of a computer or television. Having a crucifix visible from that position constantly reminds us of the protective presence, even in our moments of distraction. Alejandro's grandmother used to say, "Where the cross is, evil does not enter." This Mexican folk wisdom perfectly summarizes what the Pope taught about strategic placement. Each crucifix placed with intention and respect creates a zone of grace around it. If these teachings are resonating in your heart, if you feel the calling to transform your home into a true sanctuary of protection and peace, I invite you to subscribe to our channel right now. Each week we share these sacred truths that have been proven by thousands of Mexican families. Press the subscription button and turn on the little bell to receive notifications. The knowledge that we are sharing with you is too valuable for you to miss any chapter. The third secret revealed by Pope Francis about the power of the crucifix is perhaps the most profound and transformative: daily spiritual activation. It is not enough to have a well-placed crucifix. It is necessary to activate it through specific practices that enhance its protective influence in our home. The crucifix is not a charm that works by itself, the Pope taught. It is a channel of grace that needs to be opened each day through our active faith. This revolutionary teaching explains why some people do not experience all the benefits despite having crucifixes in their homes. The first activation practice is what the Pope called the morning greeting. It consists of starting the day with a brief prayer in front of the crucifix, ideally before any other activity. It can be as simple as, "Lord, bless this day and all who dwell in this house." Alejandro implemented this practice religiously. "I get up 5 minutes before the rest of the family," he tells us. That moment alone in front of the crucifix sets the spiritual tone for the whole day. The surprising thing is that after 3 weeks of this practice, he began to notice that everyday problems were resolved more easily. The second activation occurs in times of difficulty. The Pope taught that in situations of family tension, illness, or economic concern, gathering in front of the crucifix completely changes the dynamics of the problem. "It's not magic," he always clarified. "It is living faith that transforms our perspective and opens paths where before we saw walls." The Torres family of Veracruz experienced this dramatically. When their teenage daughter began to show worrying behaviors, instead of confronting her with reproaches, the parents invited her to pray in front of the family crucifix. "It was as if an invisible wall collapsed between us," recalls the mother. "For the first time in months, we were able to really communicate." The third element of activation is the spiritual cleansing of the crucifix. Pope Francis taught that just as we clean our house, we must periodically clean our sacred symbols. This implies not only removing physical dust from them, but also renewing our spiritual connection with them. A simple way to do this is to take the crucifix in your hands, if its size allows. Clean it with respect while praying the Lord's Prayer, and then return it to its place with a renewed intention. The Pope recommended doing this at least once a month, ideally during the new moon, a time of natural renewal. Don Manuel, a wise old man from Michoacán, adds an element of our Mexican tradition to this practice. After cleaning the crucifix, my wife and I light a pure beeswax candle and let it burn completely. The light dispels any negative energy that has accumulated, a final secret that few know. The Pope taught that the crucifix can be programmed with specific intentions. This means praying in front of it with a particular need in mind: the health of a loved one, the resolution of a family conflict, protection. For children who study far away, this intention, offered with sincere faith, greatly enhances the protective action of the cross. Brothers and sisters, we are living in extraordinary times where spiritual protection is not a luxury, but an urgent necessity. In our nation, where families face increasingly complex challenges, implementing these teachings about the crucifix is not something we can postpone until tomorrow. Pope Francis warned us that there would be a time when homes without spiritual protection would be like ships adrift on the open sea during a storm. That time has arrived. Never before have we seen so many families disintegrating, so many young people lost in addictions, so many marriages failing at the first difficulties. Every day that passes without implementing this protection is a day that we leave our house and our family vulnerable to negative influences. It is no coincidence that our grandparents, with their ancestral wisdom, insisted so much on the presence of the crucifix in key places of the home. They intuitively understood what the Pope explained to us clearly. The cross is a spiritual shield. The urgency is even greater considering the environment that surrounds us. Daily news bombards us with violence, divisions, and hopelessness. Social media, although useful, can become channels of toxic energies that we then unconsciously bring into our homes. Without a protective barrier, these influences penetrate silently, affecting our relationships, our peace of mind, and even our physical health. But there is hopeful news. Implementing this protection is something you can start today. It does not require large investments, complex studies, or elaborate rituals. As you have learned, it is about simple but deeply meaningful actions that anyone can perform. Think for a moment. What would happen if today you relocate the crucifix that you have stored or ignored? What would change in your home if you begin to treat it with the reverence it deserves? Families all over the country are experiencing amazing transformations in a matter of days, simply by applying these sacred teachings. Mrs. Dolores from Cuernavaca shared something impactful with us. Her son had been unemployed for more than a year, creating tension in the whole family. 3 days after correctly implementing the crucifix in her home, she received an unexpected call offering him a job. "I can't explain it," she says, "but I know in my heart that it was not a coincidence." Don't wait for the problems to worsen. Don't postpone this protection until you have time. The moment is now. Your family, your home, your inner peace deserve this blessing that is within your reach. If this message has touched your heart, if you feel that inner call to transform your home into a true sanctuary of peace and protection, I invite you to subscribe to our channel right now. Don't miss the opportunity to receive these sacred revelations that can change the course of your family life. Click the subscription button and turn on the bell to receive notifications of our upcoming videos. Implementing the power of the crucifix in our daily life does not have to be complicated. It is about creating small habits that over time deeply transform our spiritual experience and the atmosphere of our home. Let's see how we can integrate these teachings of Pope Francis into our busy routine. In the morning, before the family rush begins, dedicate a minute in front of the crucifix. While the coffee is brewing or before waking the children for school, this brief moment establishes a sacred connection that will remain throughout the day. Alejandro tells us that even on his busiest days, this morning ritual is non-negotiable. It's like charging a spiritual battery, he explains. During family breakfast, a powerful practice is to take a brief pause before eating, look together towards the crucifix, and thank not only for the food, but for the protection and blessings received. The children quickly learn this habit, and surprisingly, they are the ones who often remember it when the adults forget. When you leave home, develop the habit of saying goodbye to the crucifix with a brief look or sign. It can be as simple as making the sign of the cross or a small gesture of recognition. This practice creates what the Pope called a spiritual umbilical cord that keeps you connected to the protection of your home throughout the day. In moments of important decisions, the Pope recommended a simple ritual. Sit in front of the crucifix, breathe deeply 3 times, and mentally present the situation that worries you. It is not about expecting an immediate answer, but about aligning your heart with divine wisdom before acting. Carmen implemented this practice when she had to decide whether to accept a new job that required more hours but offered a better salary. After a few minutes in front of the crucifix, I felt an unusual clarity, she recalls. I knew exactly what decision to make, and it turned out to be the right one for our whole family. At night, before sleeping, Pope Francis recommended what he called the surrender of the day. It consists of a brief moment in front of the crucifix where we mentally review the events of the day, give thanks for the good, and surrender the worries. This nightly habit significantly improves the quality of sleep and prepares the spirit for restful rest. For families with young children, a beautiful tradition is the blessing of the cross. Before the little ones go to sleep, the parents take the crucifix in their hands and make the sign of the cross on each child's forehead, asking for protection for their dreams. Children find great comfort in this ritual and often request it themselves. In moments of family conflict, when voices rise and tension grows, the Pope taught a transformative practice. Pause, gather in front of the crucifix, and maintain a minute of silence before continuing the conversation. It's as if the crucifix reminds us who we really are, beyond the momentary anger, explains Alejandro. Dear brothers and sisters, we have reached the end of this spiritual journey. But in reality, it is only the beginning of a new stage in your relationship with the crucifix and with the divine presence in your homes. Pope Francis taught us that each home is a small universe, a sacred space where heaven and earth meet. Let us reflect for a moment. What does it really mean to have a crucifix at home? It is not just an object, it is a constant invitation to the presence of Christ in our lives. Every time we look at the cross, we remember the infinite love of God, a love so great that He gave His life for us. Alejandro, our friend from Mexico City, shares a profound reflection. Before, the crucifix was just a tradition. Now it's as if we have another member in the family, one that takes care of us, guides us, and constantly reminds us of the path of love. Think about your own homes. What would it be like if every corner were permeated with this sacred presence? It is not about filling the house with crucifixes, but about making the one we have come alive through our faith and our daily actions. The Pope taught us that the home is the first church, the first place where we learn about God's love. The crucifix in our homes is like a beacon that guides the whole family towards that love. In a world full of distractions and conflicts, having this constant reminder can be the difference between a family united in love and a family fragmented by worldly worries. Carmen, Alejandro's wife, leaves us with a powerful reflection. Since we started living consciously with the presence of the crucifix, it's as if our house has become a little piece of heaven on earth. The problems have not disappeared, but now we face them with a strength and peace that we did not have before. Can you imagine what our country would be like if every home were a focus of love and peace, radiating the presence of Christ through the crucifix? It is not a utopia, it is a real possibility that begins with each of us in our own homes. I invite you that upon finishing this video, look at the crucifix in your homes with new eyes. Touch it, talk to it, truly make it the spiritual center of your homes. And if you don't have one yet, consider the possibility of inviting this sacred presence into your lives. Remember, every time you pass in front of the crucifix, you are before an opportunity to connect with the divine, to renew your faith, to find strength in difficult moments. It is not magic, it is living faith. It is the real connection with the infinite love of God manifested on the cross. Dear friends, if this message has touched your hearts, I invite you to take action. First, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. Each week we share these sacred truths that can transform your lives and those of your families. Second, I ask you to share your experiences in the comments. How has the crucifix impacted your lives? What changes have you noticed in your homes? Your testimonies can be the light that guides others on this path of faith. Third, share this video with your loved ones. In a world that so needs love and hope, this message can be the gift someone is waiting to receive. Finally, I invite you to a small challenge. During the next week, dedicate each day a special moment in front of the crucifix in your homes. It can be a prayer, a thanksgiving, or simply a moment of silence. Then come back to the comments and tell us how this experience was. Remember, every like, every comment, every time you share this video, you are helping this message of love and protection reach more homes. Together, we can create a wave of faith and hope that transforms our families, our communities, and, who knows, perhaps our entire country. May the peace and love of Christ manifested in the crucifix fill your homes and your hearts. Until the next video, God bless you.